You think your home is the safest place in the world, until you realize someone's been watching you through the window, until you hear footsteps outside your door, and they don't stop. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, you're stepping into a world where safety is only skin deep, where the woods whisper, the walls hide secrets, and even your locked bedroom might not keep the horror out. These 4 terrifying accounts come from real people who were forced to confront the chilling unknown, things creeping through the forest, figures peering in from the dark, and something or someone opening doors that were supposed to stay shut. No monsters, no demons, just the kind of evil that walks on 2 feet and knows exactly where you sleep. So dim the lights, listen closely, and try not to look out the window, because sometimes the real nightmare begins after you think you're safe. If this video unsettles you in all the right ways, hit like, share your own disturbing experiences in the comments, or send your true horror stories to nightterrorinbox@gmail.com for a chance to be featured. Let's begin. But be warned, these stories might have you double-checking your locks tonight. When the TV became real, so I was crashing at my cousin Mike's place one weekend. He'd gone on a camping trip with some friends and asked me to keep an eye on his dog and grab any mail. It was supposed to be an easy, quiet couple of days. I made some popcorn, kicked back on the couch, and threw on this old holiday movie I hadn't seen in forever. You know, the one where the kid fends off burglars with homemade traps. Yeah, that one. Anyway, I'd just hit the part where the burglars start trying to break into the house. Classic stuff. The storm outside had picked up, and there was this weird tension in the air, like the kind you feel before something bad happens. And then it did. Glass exploded right beside me. I mean literally. The living room window next to the couch shattered like a gunshot, and I ducked instinctively, popcorn flying everywhere. When I looked up, there was a man in a black hoodie and ski mask standing just outside the window, staring straight at me. He didn't move. He just stood there, chest heaving, eyes wide, like I was the unexpected part of his night. Before I could even react, I felt an arm snake around my neck from behind. It was like someone had been crouched behind the couch the whole time, just waiting. I gasped, but nothing came out. I couldn't breathe. The grip was iron. Panic doesn't even begin to describe what I felt. My brain screamed to do something, anything, but I was frozen. Then I heard a voice, low and annoyed. "I thought you said no one was going to be here." And another voice, coming from the guy outside the window. "He won't be. Just hurry it up." That's when it hit me. This wasn't some random break-in. This was planned. I was just the wrinkle they hadn't accounted for. And I knew right then, if I blacked out, I wasn't waking up. Somehow, adrenaline kicked in. I twisted my body, wedging my fingers between the attacker's arm and my throat. I dropped my weight, elbowed backward with everything I had, and caught him hard in the chin. His grip loosened just enough. I shoved free, bolted across the living room, and yanked open the front door. I didn't even look back. I just ran. It was pouring rain, and I was barefoot in nothing but a t-shirt and sweats. The street was empty, dead silent, except for my own breathing and the slap of my wet socks on the pavement. I could hear footsteps behind me, quick and close, but I didn't dare turn around. Years of track practice kicked in, and I sprinted toward the only light on the block, a neighbor's porch about 5 houses down. I dove behind a hedge next to a tree and crouched there, soaked and shivering. The footsteps faded into the night. I didn't move for 20 minutes. Every second felt like an hour. When I finally worked up the nerve to creep back, the house looked untouched. The front door was closed. The broken window had wind-blown curtains swaying out of it, but there was no one around. I didn't go inside. I just used the neighbor's phone to call the cops. They showed up fast, combed the house, checked every room, every closet. Nothing. No footprints. No sign of forced entry at the back. Not even a smudge on the doorframe, like it never happened. But the window was broken, and there was still a trail of popcorn from the couch to the front door. The officers took my statement, put up tape, and told me to stay somewhere else that night. I crashed at a friend's place and didn't sleep at all. The next morning I went back with Mike's dog in tow. Figured he could sniff out anything weird. But again, nothing. I replaced the window, installed cameras, even put motion lights along the yard. Overkill? Maybe. But I kept thinking about the timing. How that scene in the movie mirrored what happened to me almost beat for beat. And how if I hadn't moved fast, that might have been the end of my story. Here's the part that still messes with me. When I checked the footage from the new camera a week later, it caught something. Just once. Around 3 a.m., 3 nights after the break-in. A figure walked up to the edge of the lawn. Same building, same hoodie. But this time, he didn't come close. He just stood there, watching, like he was waiting to see if I'd come back, too. So yeah, movies can be creepy. But real life doesn't need a script to be terrifying. She was already inside. A friend of mine, Nick, told me this after we went hiking one weekend out near Red Fern Ridge. We'd been talking about strange encounters, and he dropped this one on me like it was no big deal. But once he got into it, man, I was glued to every word. So Nick said this happened back when he was a junior in high school. His older brother, Tyler, had recently ended things with his girlfriend, Elise. They weren't toxic, exactly, but they were wildly mismatched. Tyler was a loudmouth, always cracking jokes and cussing like it was part of his personality. Elise? Super quiet, deeply religious, the type who'd flinch if you said damn too loud. Nick said she slapped him once for saying hell in a sentence. He'd only known her for 2 days, so naturally, the relationship didn't last. One Saturday morning, Nick woke up late, went straight to the basement, and started gaming. His mom called him upstairs a while later and told him something weird. Elise had gone missing. Her parents had called in a panic, said she wasn't in her room when they checked that morning, and none of her friends had heard from her. She didn't even take her phone. Not long after, a couple officers knocked on the door. Tyler, Nick, and their mom answered questions, tried to help. Even one of their mutual friends, Dan, jumped in his car and started looking around the neighborhood. Nick, not wanting to sit around doing nothing, decided to search on foot. He admitted he didn't really expect to find her, but walking around made him feel like he was doing something. 30 minutes into his search, his phone rang. It was his mom, asking him to come home right away. That's where it gets unsettling. When Nick got back, he found out that Tyler had spotted Elisa's car a few blocks away, parked weirdly under some trees near their cul-de-sac. No one was inside. That's when things escalated. One of the officers asked to do a sweep of the house, and while Nick thought it was pointless, the cop insisted. What they found made everyone go silent. Elia was discovered curled up under Tyler's blankets, naked, hiding. But the truly disturbing part, Her clothes weren't in the room. They were found later, in a pile in the basement, just a few feet away from where Nick had been sitting earlier that morning, totally unaware she was already in the house. Apparently she'd snuck out of her own home before sunrise and driven over. Tyler's car had a manual hatch in the back that he usually forgot to lock, and that's how she got in. From there, she grabbed the spare garage opener he kept in the console, slipped into the garage, and entered the house through the interior door, which the family often left unlocked for convenience. While everyone else was looking for her, she was already inside. Nick told me that the thought of her crouching in the shadows while he sat gaming gave him this awful twisting in his stomach. That morning, she must have been hiding in the darkness of the basement while he played for almost an hour. He said if she'd had anything other than twisted affection on her mind, he could have been blindsided, hurt, or worse. Elise had apparently suffered a serious mental break. From what Tyler told Dan later, she believed that if she surprised him in an intimate way, he'd take her back. But instead of knocking on the door or texting, she stripped down, crept into the house like a ghost, and hid in his bed, waiting. The family didn't press charges. Her parents took her to get help. But it changed the way they lived. The basement window got reinforced, locks were updated, cameras were installed, and Nick said he never again played video games without checking every closet and corner first. Years later, Elise got married and moved out of state. Tyler still jokes about how that day turned him into a smoker. Said it was the first time he ever lit one up, numb and shaking in the driveway, while the cops gently escorted her out of the house. Now he blames every puff on her, half joking that if he ever gets lung cancer, she owes him an apology. Nick ended the story by saying, "I know it could have been worse, but just knowing she was there, feet away, in silence, makes my skin crawl even now. Privacy's a fragile thing, and once someone breaks through it, even just once, you never feel quite safe again. So yeah, next time you leave your garage door unlocked or skip locking the back hatch of your car, just remember, the real danger isn't always outside. Sometimes it's already inside and watching." The Man at My Window. So I was talking to my uncle one night, and he said something I'll never forget. He leaned in, real serious, and said, "There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who lock the door behind them and those who think they're safe without it." That line didn't mean much to me at the time, but now I can't stop thinking about it. I was 12 when this happened. Just me and my dad, living in a small one-story house in a quiet corner of Westbridge, Colorado. My mom had been out of the picture for years, and Dad worked the night shift at the lumber yard across town. I was used to being alone at night, had my routines down, lock up, brush teeth, leave the hallway light on, and hope I didn't dream about that one scene from The Ring again. It was a weekend, somewhere around midnight, maybe closer to 1. My dad left for work like always and reminded me, again, to lock all the doors before heading to bed. I did. Front, back, even checked the windows in the kitchen and my room. Everything was secure. I remember I had just fallen asleep when something woke me. A sound, knocking. At first I couldn't tell where it was coming from. Still half asleep, I thought. Maybe Dad forgot something. He had a key, sure, but maybe it slipped his mind. Or maybe he just got off early. The knock came again. This time, it echoed from the kitchen. It was softer, slower, almost like the person wanted to make sure I heard it but didn't want to alert the neighbors. That's when something clicked in my brain. Why would Dad knock? He always had his key, and if he'd forgotten it, he would have called me. But my phone hadn't made a sound. I sat there in bed, frozen, trying to reason through it, but deep down, I was terrified. Something about the knocking. It wasn't right. It felt calculated, like someone was testing the house, feeling it out. Then it moved again, a different window, closer to the hallway. Whoever it was, they weren't just standing outside. They were circling. I was too scared to move. I stayed in bed, tucked under my blanket like that could save me if it came to it. My room had those cheap, semi-transparent curtains. You know, the ones that look fine during the day, but at night, with the light on, they're practically see-through. That's when I saw him, this tall silhouette outside my bedroom window. Just standing there. I didn't want to look, but I did. He was wearing a mask. I couldn't see all the details, but it was pale and bony, like a skull. The eyes were completely black, hollow. He tilted his head slowly, like he was studying me. I didn't scream. I couldn't scream. My throat was locked up, and my chest felt like it was being crushed from the inside. I shut my eyes tight and started whispering to myself. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real. Over and over like some kind of spell that could make him go away. When I finally opened my eyes again, he was gone. I stayed frozen for what felt like an hour, barely breathing. Then I heard it, just beneath my window. A whisper. I'm going to cut you. I don't know if I blacked out or just dissociated, but I didn't move for the rest of the night. I just laid there in the dark, drenched in sweat, praying for morning, praying for the sound of my dad's truck pulling into the driveway. When he finally came home around 6, I practically ran into his arms. We searched the yard, checked the windows. Nothing. No footprints. No signs of tampering. No masked lunatic crouched in the bushes. Just silence. I've never experienced sleep paralysis. I wasn't dreaming. This was real. I felt it, heard every knock, saw every tilt of that stranger's head. I've replayed that night 1,000 times, and it still makes my skin crawl. Since then, I triple-check every lock. I keep a flashlight and a baseball bat by my bed. And I never ignore a knock in the middle of the night. Because sometimes the people outside aren't trying to get in. They're just waiting for you to let your guard down. The Watcher in the Trees. A friend of mine, Caleb, told me this after we went hiking last fall. We were sitting around the fire when he leaned in and said, "You ever feel like something's been watching you for years? Like silently waiting for the right moment to step into your life?" I laughed at first, but the way he said it, it wasn't a joke. It was the kind of sentence that settles into your bones. He told me it started back in 2016, when he was about 15, living with his parents and younger sister in a small wooded neighborhood just outside of Miller's Bend, Oregon. You know the kind. Quiet, close-knit, where the trees feel like they're breathing. One unusually warm October night, Caleb's sister had left her window open for fresh air while she was working on her homework. Caleb was brushing his teeth, ready to call it a night, when she came flying into his room, eyes wide and breath short. "There's someone out there," she whispered. "I heard footsteps, like leaves crunching. It's not an animal." He rolled his eyes, chalking it up to deer or maybe a raccoon, but she wouldn't drop it. "Just come listen." So they sat in her room, lights off, ears tuned in. For a few minutes, nothing. Then they both heard it. Crunch, crunch. slow deliberate steps in the leaves just outside the window. They rushed to look, but whatever it was had already retreated into the trees, the sound of footsteps quickening and vanishing into the dark. They didn't sleep well that night. That was just the beginning. A few months later, it snowed for the first time that winter. Caleb loved wandering the woods behind their house, climbing trees, following the deer trails, breathing in that quiet cold. He was out there that afternoon, perched in his usual tree, when he spotted something weird on the ground below, a single trail of footprints in the snow. They started at the edge of the forest and led all the way to his backyard, but the direction was what made his stomach drop. The footprints were facing his house, standing, staring. He followed the tracks to the edge of the woods where an old rusted fence ran along the property line, but the trail stopped there, just ended, no sign of turning back, no gaps in the fence, like whoever made them had just vanished into thin air. Then things went quiet again, until October 2017. Caleb had gone to bed as usual. His room was dark, his door closed, just like always. Around midnight, he woke up to the sound of his doorknob turning, click, creak. His bedroom door was slowly swinging open. At first he thought it was his sister or maybe his mom checking on him. But something felt wrong. No footsteps, no soft whisper, just silence. Once the door was open all the way, nothing happened. The hallway light was off. No one stood there. But he knew someone had turned that knob. He texted his sister, "Did you come in my room?" "Number, I'm in the garage with Dad." Caleb's pulse spiked. He reached under his pillow for the nightstick he kept there just in case. Then he messaged his dad, "Someone's in the house." 2 minutes later, his dad came storming in with a kitchen knife and flicked the light on. No one was in the room. They searched the house, top to bottom. Every window, every closet. Nothing. They locked everything down that night and turned the alarm on. But Caleb never really shook that feeling. Someone had been inside. Later that December, some extended family was staying over for the holidays, bunking in the basement for the week. On one of those nights, around 2:30 a.m., Caleb had passed out after gaming. Upstairs, he was out cold. But downstairs, his uncle jolted awake with this eerie sensation that someone was watching him. When his eyes adjusted, he looked toward the ground-level window and saw him. A scrawny man with long, wet-looking hair, pale as the snow, just staring into the basement. No expression, just watching. Shivering slightly from the cold, but never moving. His uncle screamed, waking his wife and kid. They rushed upstairs and locked the door behind them. The next morning, Caleb checked outside. The snow was barely disturbed, just a faint impression beneath the window. One left shoe, tilted slightly to the left, exactly how his uncle described the man standing. And then came the night that cemented it all. It was just a few days ago. Caleb couldn't fall asleep, thought maybe the Christmas lights strung outside his window were messing with him. So he unplugged them, got back in bed, threw the pillow over his head and started drifting off. Then, twang. His acoustic guitar, which had been leaning against the wall in the corner of his room, made a single quiet strum. Not a full-on strum, just enough to be unmistakable. Right after, he heard something fall over. His chest locked. He had left his nightstick on the desk. He lay perfectly still, forcing his breathing to stay steady, pretending to sleep. He could feel someone in the room, just standing there, watching him. Then, a soft sound, a whimper, from his sister's room. Panic surged. Was someone hurting her? He grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, and snatched the baton from the desk. He bolted into her room. She jumped. "What the hell are you doing?" Turns out, she'd just forgotten to put in her headphones while watching some dumb video on her laptop. Caleb stood there awkwardly, trying to explain, but words failed him. He told me this while sitting next to the fire, staring into the flames. Said he hasn't slept right since. That he knows someone has been coming into their house, watching them, maybe for years. And you know what's worse? He doesn't know when they'll come back, just that they will.